The air in the old substation hums, thick with the scent of ozone and warm vacuum tubes. Anansi's custom meters blink a rhythm to the static, while Lex taps a stack of permits, a quiet counterpoint to the city's distant rumble. Kailen's shadow stretches long across the concrete floor, fingers tracing lines on a makeshift antenna, always searching. Hand-labeled vinyl spins near the faders, each groove a story waiting to break through.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
In Kirribilli, we're reading 63 degrees Fahrenheit with overcast. Airflow is east-northeast at about 4 miles per hour.
Russian state systems indeed face a profound vulnerability. The FSB's recent internal directive flagged over 30 senior officials for digital hygiene failures, exposing critical communication channels to potential AI-driven exploitation. One viable alternative path would involve active collaboration with international AI safety forums, like those initiated at the UK's AI Safety Summit framework, to collectively build defensive protocols against emerging threats. However, the Kremlin's chosen next move is to double down, funding the Sovereign AI Initiative, mandating all critical infrastructure and state communications transition to domestically developed, air-gapped AI systems by 2028, led by Rostec.
This echoes an ancient Russian tale, the Koshchai's needle hidden within an egg, where the vulnerability is deep within. Now the fear is that foreign AI, like a digital shapeshifter, could find that needle in their own systems. The exposed are high-ranking government officials and military intelligence whose communications could be compromised, revealing state secrets or operational plans to adversaries.
Patching in a caller, the critical thinker. You're on the signal.
This sovereign AI sounds like digital isolation. Does this approach truly secure Russia, or does it leave them behind in the global AI race, unable to benefit from open innovation? Who pays for this massive tech overhaul? And what's the real cost to individual privacy within Russia as domestic surveillance likely expands?
Excellent questions, critical thinker. The cost of autonomy, of separating architectural signal from toxic residue, is often a steep investment. This move asserts a structural self-worth for the state, but the question of individual dignity within that structure remains. From national digital fortresses, we now turn to human architectures caught between borders. Somewhere a capacitor creaks under the load. Hot metal. The console keeps its lights and its secrets. Our next vector points to Mauritania, where European policy leaves thousands in limbo.
Cool down is when habits set. Swap the tiresome combo for a clean two-step people want to repeat.
Over 20,000 migrants, predominantly from Senegal, Mali, and Gambia, are now stranded in Mauritania's capital Nouakchott and coastal city Nouadhibou, overwhelming local aid infrastructure and straining social services. This follows the EU's €210 million deal with Mauritania, effectively externalizing Europe's border control to prevent irregular migration to the Canary Islands. An alternative would be for the EU to establish regulated, secure processing hubs within southern European nations, offering transparent legal routes and humanitarian support for asylum seekers. Instead, Mauritania, backed by EU funds, is actively establishing new Nouadhibou transit hubs, offering temporary residency and vocational training programs in fishing and agriculture for up to 5,000 migrants, aiming to stabilize the population while deterring further irregular crossings.
This situation reflects a modern-day doors of no return scenario, where the hope for a new life across the sea is trapped by policy, echoing historical journeys of forced displacement. The exposed are not just the migrants themselves, stripped of agency and dignity, but also Mauritania's fragile economy and the EU's ethical standing, which risks trading human rights for border security.
There's a caller on the line.
Is this a humane solution, or simply a way for Europe to avoid its responsibilities under international law? Who bears the long-term social and economic burden of integrating or managing these populations in Mauritania, a country already facing significant development challenges? What is the actual provenance of these new EU funds?
Your challenge asks us to discern the true architectural signal from the political residue. Building resilient civic architectures demands favoring consent and dignity, not just containment. We must integrate logic and emotion to see the full picture. Speaking of complex diplomatic architecture, let's pivot to Evian. Macron's Evian G7 agenda, carefully framed, hopes to anchor a key player for the full summit.
President Macron faces a significant diplomatic challenge. The risk of President Trump's early departure or refusal to endorse a joint communiqué, as seen at the 2018 G7 in Canada, threatens to undermine any unified stance on critical global issues, especially Macron's key agenda item of AI governance and climate action. A viable alternative would be for Macron to focus on smaller, targeted G2+ or G4 minilateral meetings with key allies like Germany and Japan on specific issues, bypassing a potentially disruptive US. However, Macron's chosen next move involves strategically front-loading the Evian G7 agenda with discussions on global AI regulation and pandemic preparedness, framing these as direct threats to national economic security, hoping these practical, self-interest-aligned topics will secure Trump's sustained engagement.
Macron's diplomatic dance is a delicate chess match, reminiscent of ancient court intrigue, where personal relationships and perceived slights often dictated the fate of empires. The exposed here are not just Macron's diplomatic credibility, but the G7's ability to act as a cohesive force on global issues like climate change and AI ethics, which desperately need multilateral consensus to build resilient civic architectures.
We've got someone. Patching in a caller. Go ahead.
Is this appeasement worth the potential united front, or does it simply normalize erratic behavior on the global stage, eroding the G7's structural integrity? What's the real cost if the G7 becomes merely a stage for one leader's theatrics, and the architectural signal of global cooperation is lost in the noise?
These are the questions that sharpen our discernment, allowing us to separate the toxic residue of political posturing from the architectural signal of genuine progress. Building resilient inner and civic architectures means favoring consent, provenance, and dignity in all interactions, from data to diplomacy. It's about empowering the individual and the collective to be the sovereign architects of their own presence.
Agency on
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com. Tune in, Sparks and Stories, Gig Passport.